Well, it is wonderful to be with you this morning. Happy Pentecost. It seems like such an appropriate time for us to begin our ministry together as we celebrate the birth and the birthday of the church. It is also good for me to be with you, having come back from my time in Washington. It was so good to be able to be up there with my family, and not only with my mother, but with my brother's family, which meant I got to spend time with 3 of my 4 nieces and nephews. And they were very excited to hear about the new job, so I showed them the website. And I forgot that you would put me all on the website, so they were really excited about that. And when they saw the bio, they went, "Oh, Aunt Kimberly, we're on the website," because I had that line where I talked about how my nieces and nephews filled me with joy and laughter. So they were really excited to feel like they were on the website. And I told them, I said, well, you all are going to have something to teach me, because they spent 2 weeks in Singapore a couple of years ago, because their aunt and uncle on their mother's side live in Singapore, and they teach at the American school there. So then my 8-year-old nephew proceeded to try and teach me all the Mandarin that he knew. And we successfully at least got ni hao. Am I doing that right? Yeah. So of course when I got here I was eager to practice it, and at one point last week Pastor Moat and I were at the front door, and this wonderful, sweet, elderly Chinese woman came in and kind of bowed to us and uttered something, and I responded, "Ni hao." And Pastor Moat said, "That was really good, Kimberly, but you responded in Mandarin and she addressed you in Cantonese." Oops. Clearly I have a lot to learn. And I will keep learning, and I will ask for your patience and your forgiveness and your understanding as I seek to learn not only languages, but cultural nuances. I'm really terrified, actually, to learn the language, because I'm afraid to say, "Your pajamas are on fire," when I need to say, "Have a nice day," or something like that. But the thing that struck me about that encounter was that the woman didn't seem to be offended that I had addressed her in the wrong language, and there was some kind of communication that happened between us, even though we weren't speaking the same language. It was a communication of eyes and nonverbal and heart and spirit, and you all, of course, must know what I'm talking about as you have that experience. And to me, that is the essence of the Holy Spirit, that translates via the heart and via our intention, even beyond what language we're speaking. And to me, that's part of the beauty of the Pentecost passage that we have, the Pentecost story today. And I like to call that concept the Universal Translator. And of course I get that notion from Star Trek, the TV show. And if you remember that way back when, if you ever wondered, it was such a mystery that people, not just of different races, but different species from different planets, could all understand each other and talk to one another. And they would call that the Universal Translator. They all had some chip in their head or something that made them all understand each other. Well, for us, I believe that is the Holy Spirit. And it links us and reminds us of what we have in common, what we share in our heart, and it bridges even differences that we have. And that concept, I think, is illustrated in both of the lectionary texts that we have for today, and they almost act like bookends for one another. And so we start with that famous passage in Genesis that we are no doubt all familiar with, usually referred to as the story of the Tower of Babel. And if you're like me, maybe you're not, but true confession, sometimes I find this passage just a little bit disturbing. It can be one of those passages when we're just not quite sure what God is up to. And the thing that disturbs me about it is this sense that the people are being punished for something that seems like it would be such an ordinary thing to want to do, to want to stay together. Now, not so much the part about building the tower and pride and hubris, all that. Of course, we wouldn't want that. But why would God punish them for wanting to stay together? It seemed to me that God was trying to teach them something, or trying to have them learn something, or trying to help them grow. So I kept digging until I found a commentator that agreed with me. And luckily there was a commentator named Richard Bryce, and he did some work on feasting on the Word, and he actually gave some textual and exegetical evidence to help support that theory. And he said that he believes that the pride of this particular group was not, or the sin was not their pride, but their desire to remain homogeneous. The fact that they all wanted to stay the same. And they wanted to stay in this little group, and they were afraid to go out. They were afraid to reach out beyond themselves, so they kind of wanted to huddle in. And God didn't want that. It was not part of God's design. So God is kind of trying then to nudge them out of the net a little bit to help them grow. And when we look at a couple of words in the passage, that makes even more sense. According to Bryce, instead of using the word confuse, that God confused the language, he thought it would be more accurate to say that God mixed the language. And instead of saying that God scattered them, he thinks a better translation is that God dispersed them, which to me puts a whole different light on this passage, saying that God's desire was to mix things up a little bit, and again, to nudge them out of the nest and almost commission them and send them on. And according to this alternative theory, this is not a story about pride and punishment, but about the birth of cultural diversity. And since it belongs to the prehistory genre of the Bible, that makes sense. This is people trying to understand the different cultures of the world. And I think that's fabulous, actually, this interpretation. Because it helps affirm that this is part of God's design. That we all be of different languages, different cultures, different races, different colors, and there's a beauty in that. And that it's not until all these things come together that we even fully see the face of God. We are meant to be a diverse people, and that is a wonderful joy that we can celebrate as part of God's design.